So we're back for another deep dive. Today we're going to kind of jump around the world a little bit and see what's been happening.
Yeah, we got kind of a grab bag of headlines for you this time, but they're all connected in a way when you really think about it.
Well, let's start with something that affects everybody's health, which is vaccines.
Yeah.
There was some recent news about the U.S. potentially cutting funding for Gavi.
Right, and Gavi is huge for getting vaccines to kids in developing countries.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. They've been around for 25 years and probably saved 19 million lives? Is that what they said?
Yeah, something like that. It's a lot of lives.
So this is a big deal, and the U.S. has been a major contributor. They give 13% of Gavi's budget.
Right, and the thing is, this might not even be the whole story, right? There's that leaked document talking about maybe cutting funding for other global health programs too, like malaria, infectious diseases, that sort of thing.
And that's where it gets really scary.
Yeah.
Because if the U.S. backs out, who's going to step up? And what happens to all the progress they've made against these preventable diseases?
Exactly. And you got to think about the legal side of this too. A lot of this funding was already approved by Congress, so can they even just cut it like that? It's a real mess.
Okay, well, let's switch gears for a second, but stay in the international realm. What did you think about President Trump's recent comments about expanding U.S. territory?
Oh, you mean buying Greenland and making Canada the 51st state? Yeah, that was something.
Yeah, and let's not forget about reclaiming the Panama Canal. He said they were overcharging us and there's too much Chinese influence there.
Huh, I don't think anyone's taking that too seriously. I mean, Greenland and Denmark already said no thanks, and the Canadian Prime Minister wasn't too happy about it either.
Right. It's more about what it says about U.S. foreign policy, right? Is this a new direction? Are they going to be more aggressive in trying to achieve their goals?
Yeah, it definitely raises some eyebrows, Even if it's just talk, it can still affect how other countries see the U.S. and how they interact with them.
Okay, well, let's move on to something a little more somber. The earthquake in Myanmar.
Oh, man, that was awful. 7.7 magnitude, that's a big one.
Over 1,600 people dead. It's just tragic.
And the crazy thing is it wasn't even that deep, only 10 kilometers below the surface, so the shaking must have been incredibly intense.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Myanmar that felt it either. Did you hear about the building that collapsed in Bangkok?
Yeah, over 1,000 kilometers away. That's insane.
It just goes to show you how far-reaching these things can be, and, Bangkok has that soft soil. It actually amplifies the seismic waves.
And then you have to wonder about the building codes there, too. Are they up to date? Could something like that happen in other cities?
Well, Myanmar itself is in a really tough spot right now. They have weak infrastructure. They're economically unstable.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long road to recovery.
Absolutely. And this is something we see time and time again. Natural disasters really expose the vulnerabilities that already exist.
So, we've talked about vaccines and territorial ambitions and a devastating earthquake, and they might seem totally unrelated, but
they're all part of the same story, right? This big interconnected world where everything affects everything else.
Exactly. So think about it. What happens if vaccine funding gets cut globally? Could that lead to outbreaks that eventually reach even wealthy countries?
Right. And what about these statements about territorial expansion? How does that affect diplomatic relations? Does it make certain regions less stable?
And then you have the earthquake. It might have happened halfway around the world, but it makes you think about the risks we face here at home, right? Are we prepared for a major disaster?
Exactly. These are all things we have to consider because in this day and age, we can't afford to ignore what's happening in other parts of the world.
So the takeaway here is that understanding events across all these different areas, from public health to geopolitics to natural disasters, it gives you a much clearer picture of the challenges and opportunities we all face together.
Absolutely. It's not about being an expert on everything, but about recognizing how interconnected our world truly is.
And that's something worth thinking about.
Yeah, definitely food for thought.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.